"Search everything," shouted the young United States Coast Guard officer, pointing directly at the small fishing boat floating just off the coast of Key West, Florida. His voice cracked through the salty air as three crewmen in deep blue uniforms stepped onto the deck, their movements fast and serious. On the boat stood an elderly man in a flannel shirt, gripping a weathered fishing rod, his eyes wide with confusion and disbelief. The cap on his head, sun-faded and soft around the brim, read United States Navy. He turned slowly, staring at the uniformed men boarding his vessel. "This some kind of mistake?" he asked, the rod now forgotten in his hands. "You tell us," the officer said firmly. "We are conducting a full search under Title 14, Section 522 of the United States Code. Suspicion of unregistered watercraft and possible restricted cargo. Identification now." The old man exhaled. "Okay, easy," he said, reaching into a small waterproof pouch beneath the helm seat. With shaking hands, he passed a leather-bound identification case over to the officer. The officer flipped it open without a second thought, but as his eyes skimmed the contents, his posture stiffened. He read the name aloud. United States Navy, Captain James Francis Callahan. Service number 3729481. Retired? The man gave a single nod. "That's me." The name landed like thunder across the deck. Captain James Francis Callahan, the commanding officer of the USS Mason, 1944 to 1946. The only white commanding officer known to have openly defied the Navy's segregation policy during World War II. He stood up for his men, most of them African-American sailors, when Washington tried to bury their heroism beneath bureaucracy and silence. The officer blinked. You're that Captain Callahan? The one from the Mason?" "Yes," the man said softly. "I come out here once a year, always on October 13th. It's the day I lost 5 of my boys. We were escorting convoy HX-305. U-boats cut us off in the storm. My men held that line, saved 300 lives." Silence rolled across the water like a wave. The other crewmen lowered their arms, suddenly aware they were standing in the presence of someone who had once led under fire when the country barely acknowledged the men he fought beside. "I drop their names into the sea every year," Callahan said. "It's my promise to them. Been doing it since 1947. From beneath a tarp, the old man revealed a wooden case. Inside were 5 polished brass name tags and a tightly folded American flag, its edges frayed but clean. They earned medals they never got to wear, but I remember. One of the Coast Guard crew members stepped forward. "Captain, sir, your testimony helped change how we learn about naval history. We read about the Mason in basic." Callahan nodded but did not smile. "Good, then maybe they won't be forgotten." With deliberate motion, he pressed play on a small speaker built into his cabin wall. A familiar naval hymn, "Eternal Father, Strong to Save," echoed across the water. As the music played, the United States Coast Guard crew removed their caps and stood in silence. Callahan leaned over the bow and one by one let the brass tags sink into the sea. Each name spoken under his breath, each life honored. The Coast Guard officer who had barked orders only minutes before now spoke quietly into his radio. "This is United States Coast Guard Cutter Bravo 1. Stand down boarding protocol. This vessel is clear. Repeat, clear. We are returning." As the boat pulled away, the officer turned back once more. "Captain Callahan, I'm sorry for how we came at you." Callahan gave a tired nod. "You weren't wrong. You were just uneducated. Now you're not." Back at headquarters, the United States Coast Guard submitted a formal apology and extended a ceremonial invitation for Captain Callahan to speak at the United States Coast Guard Academy. He declined the ceremony but sent a handwritten letter instead. It read, "We do not serve for medals. We serve for each other. But remembering, that service too." Later that year, the United States Navy announced that a new simulation vessel at Naval Station Norfolk would be christened the USS Callahan in honor of his wartime courage and post-war legacy. On the following Memorial Day, Captain James Francis Callahan passed away quietly at his home in Daytona Beach, Florida. On his nightstand sat an old compass, a photograph of the Mason's crew, and his Navy cap folded next to the American flag he carried to sea every year. So titles fade, records fade, but the truth lives in the names we never stop saying out loud. Before we end this story, let us know in the comment, where are you watching from? If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button and drop a karma in the comments below.